Guys, you need a lawyer. Hey guys, it's been a while since I've done a Q&A. If you guys don't know what kind of video this is, I answer your questions about the anime, manga, webtoon industry that you guys submit directly to me. And who am I to answer these questions? I'm Brandon Chen. I'm a writer-producer for the Manga Webtoon space. I run a studio, Inspire Productions, that produces the stories that I write and also just generally produce because sometimes I work with other writers. And we make those stories, and then the successful ones we try to take to animation or other transmedia. And basically, you know, I try to make these Q&A videos to educate because there's not a lot of education in this space. I wish I had this education when I was starting out. So that's literally, you know, free education for these types of videos. So please, if you guys support the videos, smash a like for the YouTube algorithm. It's a free way to support the channel, and subscribe if you want to learn more about this space and get notifications when I release educational stuff. Thank you so much. And we're going to get right into the Q&A. Patreons get priority for the questions that I answer. So we're going to start off with Patreon questions. Sarah's asking, what's the best strategy you think an American publisher should take if you want to compete with Shonen Jump and other Japanese publishers? Should they focus on both manga, physical media, and webcomics, digital media, or prioritize one? Sarah, are you a publisher that's following me on Patreon? The world is digital first. There's no way to go around it. Digital first is the way to go. I think that if you don't have digital as a core part of your publishing strategy, then you're kind of cooked. Why do I say that? I think that print is shifting to a less of a, hey, this is where I read the medium, but more like a collector. Like, for example, I collect manga and webtoon, physical media, and even novels, but I read everything digitally. Why? Because I don't really bring books around me when I read. I like to read when I'm just randomly feeling like it, and that's usually in public. And now at this point, I've just like trained my brain to just enjoy reading digitally more than I do physically. And that's because I probably have TikTok brain, but that's a problem for another day. But obviously, if you want to capture the market in terms of like younger people who are driving a lot of the consumption for entertainment these days, then you have to be digital first. Even when you look internationally at Japan, Korea, Asia, Europe, and the US included, readership is increasing while print consumption is decreasing in comparison to digital consumption. So basically, long story short, you have to have a digital first strategy. Whether or not that is manga, because manga can be released digitally. They have apps for manga. All the manga publishers are releasing apps because they are realizing that digital is super important. So they're releasing their manga digitally. I think that whether or not it's manga or a webtoon, like a vertical webtoon, then it doesn't really matter as long as the product is important. So what matters most? Digital focused strategy, with print being like, again, a specialized product that you can buy as a way to, again, get higher margins, probably. Maybe not even margins is the right word, but get more money for your products for super fans or people who are more traditional and like to read printed stuff. But having a digital focused strategy and then really focusing on the product, I think that people care more about whether or not a story or project is really strong than they do care about whether or not it's a webtoon or manga. Some people are going to counter to me that in the comments. I know some people are like, I only read webtoons because it's colored and I like the tropes there. Or some people are like, manga has better storylines and I love the page format better and the black and white better and the line art's better. Some people are going to say that, but I think at the end of the day, if the storyline is super freaking good, people will read the manga, and if the storyline's super freaking good and everyone's telling you it's good, they will read the webtoon. Like, honestly, I don't think anyone's gonna be like, oh god, it doesn't have color. Some people will, but like, really, I don't think that's like the main driver of why people are not gonna read a medium. Story, digital focused strategy would be my opinion. Valentine's asking a good question. What is the best release strategy if you cannot release on a regular basis? I'm gonna be a father soon, but I want to pursue my 6-chapter webtoon. Congratulations on being a father, Valentine. I'm so far off from that, but I can empathize, I'm sure, with how much work you've got going on. So, if you're not locked into a release schedule, like a weekly release schedule because you're on a contract with, a publisher, then you can do a monthly thing if you have 6 chapters, and that's a 6 chapters one and done project. You could do a monthly release. You could do a bi-weekly release. I think it ultimately depends on your production. I wouldn't start doing releases until you have some chapters finished in the chamber, because usually the early parts of chapter production are usually take a lot longer because you're doing a lot of pre-production work, and then like the first 3 chapters are usually harder to make, and then the next 3 chapters are exponentially easier to make because you've done the first 3. And especially like if you're finding that you're having a struggle on the production process because you have like family stuff going on, definitely lock in like, I don't know, 4 chapters completed and then consider your release schedule from there. And maybe that release schedule is bi-weekly, monthly, whatever it is that you best want to do. I think in the manga space, monthly is a thing. They do that in Japan Japan, I do think that the world is gravitating towards a shorter attention span, which means a desire for a higher release schedule. I think like the kids these days are, not even satisfied with weekly releases, which is kind of insane to me. They almost want like daily stuff. And again, that's why some of these publishers are trying to release twice a week. And the only way they're doing that is with AI and stuff like that. But anyway, I think long story short, like the release schedule is up to the production. What do the readers want? They want more the merrier. But ultimately it's like the balance of the more the merrier, and how do I maintain the quality in my own mental health as a creator, and what's going to help me long term. And I think what's more important is your ability to produce consistently. So I think like consider your own release. I think if you're doing a monthly thing, that's totally fine. Ikari, at what point in a manga creator's journey is it best to seek help from an editor? What are the best ways to find the right one? Yeah, so I think an editor can help in a lot of ways, especially like improving your storytelling, improving your own ability to craft story, craft art, craft page formats. Working with editors from my perspective and people who have an editorial mindset have really helped me like think a lot more critically and analytically about my own storytelling methodologies. I mean, when I started off doing a few series like God Game, right? I was writing a lot from the gut and from the heart as opposed to like writing like strategically. It was more like, hey, this is what I think I would enjoy, and it happened to work out. It was like, hey, this is what I enjoy. I'm gonna write from my gut. Same with Just the Goblin, but Just the Goblin was my first time working with an editor, I think, and the editors gave me like decent feedback for the first 3 chapters to make sure it was as tight as possible and there's a lot of information being conveyed and all that stuff. So again, working with an editor can really help hone your own writing and art chops, I think. And there's no early, a lot of people start off their careers working with editors. So I definitely think that a lot of people work with them early on in their career. So it's never bad time. The sooner the better. What is the best ways to find one? Traditional manga editors are in Japan. So you would have to enter through a manga competition or through social media and get someone's attention. Ultimately, the way to get an editor is by getting their attention, right? And the traditional way was like you enter a manga competition, you win the competition, and then they like hit you up. Now there's social media, digital worlds, and you can honestly be releasing your own thing. Someone might reach out to you. That's why I make a lot of these videos, not necessarily to meet editors, but even like executives from Hollywood or animation producers or webtoon producers or platform executives. They can all find you through social media, right? And that's why I have this crazy digital blueprint that is focused around my career and obviously trying to help you guys. But like a side goal of this is all to like grab people. And I think that's what the benefit of social media is. And again, not to say that you have to post your face on social media, but I think that there is a very easy way to gain a potential connection or network connection to an editor by posting on social media. So those are the 2 ways that I would really recommend, which again is contests or releasing your work and sharing it to the world and hoping that the editor will find you. Higanbana is if you guys don't know Higanbana, they're a legend when it comes to Q&A questions because they ask the best question. When signing contracts with publishers, do you use the aid of a lawyer? As a creator with a background in business and finance, are you comfortable with going through contracts without legal aid? Would you recommend a lawyer for creators who do not have a background in business? Guys, you need a lawyer. You always need a lawyer. I've actually seen some insane contracts. The contracts, even like in an NDA, sometimes they'll sneak shit in there and they're just like, yeah, it's a standard NDA. And they try and you. You know what I mean? I think like in business, there's a lot of sharks out there that are trying to get a piece of your IP, get a piece of you, get a piece of anything, or just like totally screw you over or lock you into something that is basically modern day in chains. And no matter how business savvy you are, again, this question says like, hey, I came from business and finance. Like, sure, I did, but like, did I come from a law background? And even if you are a lawyer, like, it's always good to get another opinion also. So I think always, unless you're a lawyer yourself and you've worked in entertainment law, get a lawyer. There's comic lawyers out there. If you're working in stuff that's just outside of comics, entertainment lawyers, these people are focused entirely on fighting the battle on your behalf. And honestly, you take their notes into account, you have your own business savvy mind. And I think ultimately the best situation you could be in is having a lawyer at your side that can help fight your battle and look out for you for those exploitive contracts or legal words. And then also like have something in your own mind for thinking about like, okay, like, this lawyer flagged XYZ, I'm gonna look out for that in my next contract, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, lawyers are pretty much needed. It can be quite annoying when you're going back and forth with your lawyers and you're like, ah, shit, like, why am I spending so much money on these lawyers just for this silly contract? But it's better than getting sued, guys. It's better than getting sued. Or it's better than the publisher or some other entity takes advantage of you and you don't have the money to afford someone to fight that. You know, it would have been better if you just flagged it from the contract before you signed it. So don't sign anything you don't know what it is, and get a lawyer. Get a lawyer. A asks, what if you make the main character lose on their first battle? I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea. I think a lot of modern day shonen, the readers really like characters who are likable, and typically people who are seen as weak are not as likable, but you have to also show them like overcoming something quite soon, because if the main character stays dislikable and there's no redeeming qualities throughout the first chapter, first episode, it's not going to be as interesting, right? Like, good example is like Solo Leveling. The main character loses all of the first battles. In fact, I think he's seen fighting goblins, gets slashed, gets saved. It's inferred that he's going to become stronger, but he loses all his first battles, and then he becomes overpowered later on. And it's quite obvious that he's going to become overpowered. So, you know, the main character, he loses his first battle in Solo Leveling, but like, why do you enjoy him? You know, he's quite a nice guy. He's got a good mission, got a good heart, and it's inferred that he's going to get stronger. So I don't think there's necessarily a bad reason for making the main character lose their first battle, as long as they know that this guy is going to overcome that in some way later on. And also he has other redeeming qualities that can keep the reader interested in the meantime. So really thinking about that is really important. And that is all the questions that we have today. Today was a Patreon answer day. So if you guys are interested in learning more about the manga webtoon space, Patreon, I do release advice on there. I release behind the scenes, and they obviously get priority questions for the Q&As. So wow, really good questions today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you do have any other questions, please leave them in the comments. I'm trying to farm questions for my next videos. And if you've gotten this far, please comment the special word of the day. It's going to be arrow. I don't know why I chose arrow, but thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next week's video. Peace. Boop. Guys, you need a lawyer.